suites, please. Now, as I show those, I want everyone to understand that these are suites that were upgrades. I think even Mr. Fink may have enjoyed one similar to this. These are not uncommon for large conventions. What we want to make clear is the allocation and how we paid for them is, I think, a big part of what the IG is aware of. Is there another picture, or is that the only one? Okay, well, let's just say that I've been honored when I was chairman of an association to stay in one of those. It was comped by the hotel after a large bidding on taking virtually every room in the hotel. And I assure you the room rates for our guests were below what the IRS paid in that hotel. Having said that, could we go to the video and then we'll begin with the questioning. So I think Mr. Cummings and I both have seen it enough, but for some who have not seen it, I want to get it into the record. And this is a short clip. It won't be the whole thing, but it sets a tone. Lacey, I know you haven't seen this.
You're trying to get ready for Anaheim. Stay in line.
Have you seen Farris? Where is Farris?
Attempting to modulate the frequency now. The no taxion's lack of skilled tax leaders has resulted in a widespread case of confusion, uninformed taxpayers, high noncompliance, no strategic vision. I'm afraid without a wealth of skilled leaders, anarchy is spreading across the planet like a virus. Shall I wear a ski cap to cover my ears, Captain?
Nah, the ears are fine. But you gotta loosen up, Fink. Play a little wee once in a while. That's all.
I'm sure many more will watch that, and some will laugh. My questions are, what a surprise, and I'll start with Mr. Fink. What were you thinking? Were you thinking this will never be seen? Or were you thinking, how will this look when it is seen? Please start the clock. Please speak close to the mic. We couldn't hear.
Mr. Chairman?
You're not on.
Mr. Chairman, those videos were, at that time they were made, were an attempt to, in a well-intentioned way, use humor, the Star Trek video to open the conference. The dance video was used to close the conference. They would not occur today based upon all the guidelines that exist, and frankly, they were not appropriate at that time neither, Mr. Chairman. And the fact of the matter is it's embarrassing, and I apologize. Those videos, I noticed in the Inspector General's report there is not a clear delineation of the cost of both the videos, but they are embarrassing, and I regret the fact that they were made.
Well, let me do a follow-up question, because part of the most concerning part of the IG's report is it appears as though at the IRS, both in this and other cases, we can't count on proper accounting of what money is spent on what. There were at least many cases in which people traveled for conferences during this entire period, and as far as I know today, in which if they simply bill it as travel and not as conference travel, then it won't be seen as conference travel. How are we to know, and obviously without receipts and even a missing painting, how are we to know that these kinds of changes have occurred to where there's a auditable train of where money was spent?
Mr. Chairman, to respond to that question, of course, it's already been spoken that there's been many changes at the IRS. One of the changes at the Internal Revenue Service is around the tracking of expenses, around conferences, meetings, and training. For the particular conference in Anaheim, we were only able to track 90% of the costs. There's a variety of reasons that The other 10% were not accurately tracked. It's because people did not use the tracking code that was in place. It's also that folks were on other travel, visiting offices, doing things of that nature, did not use the conference tracking code, and may have charged their expenses to another code for another business purpose.
Well, the reason I ask that is twofold. First of all, if I did it as a business and thus couldn't account for receipts, wouldn't your inspectors say disallowed?
Mr. Chairman, yes, our auditors would look at records. They do have some discretion as far as the reasonableness of the records that are submitted, but we take very seriously the role that we occupy in ensuring that people have the appropriate business records. This here example that you have provided, we only did have 90% of the information as far as the expenditures.
Now, if I were to have local folks get hotel rooms and meals and so on, and not issue a W-2, I made a fairly serious allegation as a layman. I'm not saying that it's the law exactly, but I could characterize it as tax evasion. If a company didn't do it and the employees, particularly let's just say that they're accountants and very knowledgeable of the law, didn't do it, there were no W-2s, no 1099s, essentially no accountability for this revenue that's supposed to be taxed, what would you do in that case?
In that case, Mr. Chairman, as pointed out in the Inspector General's report, you have to look at each situation case by case. And in that particular situation, you would look at the individual facts that existed in that situation. In the matter that you're referring to here is we now have issued W-2s to all of what we characterized as being local travelers after it was brought to our attention by the Inspector General and in their report that we had not appropriately accounted for all the local travelers,
Well,
sir.
I appreciate that, Mr. Kuntz. I guess I'll characterize it to you. It was not in the tax year in which it was earned, so the employees did not voluntarily file, as far as we know. I know that's not available to the public, but the employees didn't take it on themselves. Knowledgeable people about taxes to say, oh, I've got to pay taxes on this. The employer did not issue the required tax statement to itself, if you will. I characterize it as tax evasion because it can't just be swept under the rug. These were knowledgeable parties on